Good evening, everyone. This is Vera Sadler, your host of Tuesday Talk Live, and we are here tonight for our episode this week. And I always say you have exciting guests, but I have been trying to book this guest for a little bit, so I'm so glad her schedule, my schedule worked out, and I wanted to bring this wonderful, beautiful young lady to the show because she's going to talk to you about her journey, some of the things that God has done with her, through her work, for her family over the past 2 years. I think you're going to be greatly encouraged, and you will see that God's hand, his miraculous hand, can be at work in your life, even through when you have struggles, even when there things don't always look the best, but God has a better outcome for you than you think. So I want to invite to Tuesday Talk Live and welcome Mrs. Myranda Reeves. And thank you, Myranda, for taking the time out of your busy day and schedule to be with us here tonight. And will you tell the people who you are, where you hail from, and maybe give a little introduction about yourself?
Yeah, thank you so much, Miss Vera. I know we've been trying to get this set up for a little bit, so I'm just very excited and thankful for the opportunity to get to share what God's done in our life. So, yep, my name is Myranda Reeves. I am originally from Kansas, so my husband and I moved to Texas a few years ago, and I think we're here for the long haul because we just absolutely love it, and the Lord has done some incredible things in our lives since we've been here, and so. Yeah, we're just, I'm kind of a part-time stay-at-home mom, part-time working for our district office. And so
Mhm.
that's just kind of what the Lord's doing right now.
And when you say working for the district office, I remember I would take from what I've seen that you are a creative person, that you work
Yeah.
in the creative arts type thing or helping people just put together things that are amazing. I know in the past you've worked with some of our conferences at our Oaks Church where we fellowship, and then with the Bloom Conference and everything it seems like you've put your hand to, Myranda, has been miraculous. So I just commend you because and I just thank God for the talents he give us and the talents he puts in your hand. Because if I had to do what you do, I don't know. I have a daughter that comes alongside me and help me do the kind of stuff you do because I have the mind for it. But to do it all is like, okay, now how do I bring all this together? So individuals like you who are creative and supportive and bring all that together are so important to the body of Christ, so important to pushing the mission, pushing the work forward. So I already know the people that you work with are so grateful and so thankful
Yeah.
that God gifted you with those talents. So I didn't know you were from Kansas. I thought you were here, because when I met you and saw you at the church, and for those who are listening, yes, we both fellowship at the same church. And I was one day, yes, scrolling through Facebook and I saw some information on your page and I was like, oh, I have to get you to tell this story. And when you agreed, I was so thankful. So
Yeah.
we're going to jump into this because I know that you have been not a caretaker, but I know that you have walked through alongside with your spouse, through your husband with cancer and he's
Yeah.
recovered. But also the walk through with some mothers who are struggling and they're talking about wanting a child. And I want you to tell a little bit about what that walk has been like and what God has done for you guys. Because I know you've adopted some beautiful babies. And there are women out there that are saying, what am I supposed to do, Lord? I want to do this, but how are you speaking to me? So maybe you could just start out with the story, a little bit about your husband and y'all journey through that and how the Lord has really brought you through that.
Yeah. So I'll touch on the whole adoption piece first. Um,
Okay.
and then that has been a crazy just story in general. So my husband and I, struggled with infertility for 9 years, and we
Wow.
just knew that the Lord had called us to be parents. We had no clue what that meant, because we knew this promise, and yet nothing was coming to fruition with it. And so, we just kept praying and holding on, and we had tried to adopt in Kansas, and for whatever reason, the Lord closed that door. But I don't know, David, my husband says we moved here and then the Lord was like, okay, open door. But
Oh,
obviously
wow.
that's not how it worked. But it was very quick after we moved here. We just really felt like the Lord was like, okay, the time is now. And so we just took steps in that journey, and we had a sweet little baby placed with us 3 weeks after we started that journey, because the Lord just really opened the door to the
That's
time is
quick.
now. Yes, very quick. And then we adopted him 6 months to the day of when he was placed with us. So that
So
kind of
before
goes
before you
into,
keep going, I want to ask you a question
yeah,
about this journey, because you said something in the beginning that said we struggled with infertility for 9 years, but you knew you had a promise to be parents.
yeah,
And I put that up on the screen because I've heard a lot of people, and I know people that have struggled with being parents, and they have that same promise you have, right?
yeah,
That I know the Lord has said that I'm going to have children. I'm going to, we're going to have this. But when did you realize that the difference was from your womb to God sending them? Because I think that's where sometimes, Miranda, people can't make that shift because
yeah,
of the promise, right? I
yeah,
think they struggle with that. My promise, God, you said, you told us we're going to be parents. And how they can shift to say, okay, maybe God is saying, yes, he, not maybe, but God said his promise rests here. Because sometimes we're waiting for it to fall this way, but it doesn't.
yeah, yeah. It was definitely a journey for me. I think we had decided, well, both kind of felt like before we even got married, we both felt like we wanted to adopt someday. But as women, we have a plan, and we're like, okay, well,
Mm-hmm.
we'll have biological children, or we'll do whatever, and then we'll adopt, or and then
Right.
the Lord will call us to this. And so, and I just knew that God had created me to be a mama, and I had the opportunity to be a spiritual mom throughout the years, but I also knew that it was more than that. Like, I was created
Okay.
to be a mother, and so um, I think the shift for us one day just became, we have this promise and we know that we are supposed to be parents, and it is not looking how we thought it was going to look. And so we just really spent time seeking the Lord, and we were like, God, whatever door you're opening, like, we're going to walk through it, because
Yes.
we we're ready, we're
Mhm.
ready, and we feel like the time is now. And so I think when we also came to this place of like surrendering that, the way we thought that dream would come to pass, right? Because
Wow, that's so good.
we have dreams and we have promises, but like, it doesn't mean it's going to happen the way we think it should. And so we had to get to a place of surrender, especially myself, of I know I'm created to be a mom, but I have to lay down the way I think it's supposed to happen, or the way that naturally as a woman I want it to
Hmm.
happen. And so once we got to that place, and um, really just came to this position of like, okay, Lord, we're here, whatever you want to do. Um, I'm telling you, it moved so fast. It moved so fast, and
Wow.
it took 9 years to get to that place, because yes, we had attempted to adopt before, but I think even in the heart, like in the depths of my heart, I hadn't really let go of, this isn't the way I wanted it to happen. Um, and I'm not saying that's why that door closed. That door closed for different reasons, and because
Right, right, right.
that was the plan for that child. Um, but it took 9 years for me to get to a place where I was like, all right, God, whatever you have, we will do
And
it
however,
however, yeah, we'll do it however you want us to do it. Um, yeah, at that point, it was like, what, this is crazy, because now it's happening so fast. And I also know that's not always how it works. That's
right.
our story.
Yeah.
But
I think that's real important though for women to hear that, mothers, and you're right, because we have this, we come to with certain expectations, right?
yeah,
This is the way, Father, this is the way you're going to do it because you said it. But when it doesn't work that way, sometimes we become discouraged. We're
yeah,
saying, Lord, why? Lord, when? And all these different things. But for us to, I think the key thing you said was surrender. I wrote down that can we surrender the how we expect it to come so that we can receive the promise. So I really love that, Miranda, that you're saying that you had to get to the point of surrender. Okay, God, however you want to do it, because then when we walk in alignment with Him, then He
yeah,
can say, okay, not
yeah,
my will, how we say, not my will, but your will be done. So I think that's so key for our listeners to hear, because I'm sure there's going to be a woman on here that's listening that may be struggling in the same way, infertility, but she knows she has that promise of God. And, I was just thinking about Sarah in the Bible. She had a promise of God. God
yeah,
didn't tell her to go outside of her home to do it, but she chose, and God had to bring her back. And when we don't align ourselves with His will, all sorts of things that happen. But I'm so glad. And now you can go back to the story about your beautiful baby boy,
Yeah.
and you have another one now.
Yeah, so we are fostering another little boy. It is actually the biological sibling to our son. And so we're just kind of seeing what the Lord does with that situation. We, we're just walking through whatever happens and whatever doors. We're open to adoption, and we would love to have him be a permanent member of our family and be able to raise our two little boys together, because
Hmm.
that is just such a sweet thing, I think, for even our son to be able to have his sibling with him growing up.
Yes.
So we're just loving on him and loving him where he's at right now and watching them just love each other. It is so sweet, the connection that they have. And so we're just waiting to see what the Lord does. So,
Yeah. How sweet. How sweet is that? Uh, when they first came in a home, I'm going to probably ask you some pointed questions. Might not be easy to answer
yeah.
them, but I know your heart. He came in within 3 weeks. Were there any feelings of, okay, Lord, what do I do? I mean, this is
Yes.
not the way I thought, and I mean, this is not what I thought it was going to be. Have you ever not felt that connection as mama? Because you said you were called to be mama, but have you
Yeah.
ever not felt that connection as mama to him because he's not your natural son?
Um, I don't know that I've ever not felt like mama to him. The day we met him, my husband and I both left the meeting and we were like, that's our boy. We just
Oh.
knew that. But there have been moments where it's like, I don't know how to maybe help him in this situation. Or I've questioned like health concerns as he gets bigger and as he grows, and how do we walk through some of that. And we
Hmm.
don't shy back from, like, we pray for his biological family, and so there's no secret of him being adopted or not. But also I think my what hangs me up sometimes is, how are we going to talk about this as he gets older? Like, how
Hmm.
are we going to handle this in a way that like his brain can understand? um and then for me, just preparing to help him process through those things. So I wouldn't say
Yeah.
that I never felt like not connected to him. I did a lot of the time feel like, Lord, what in the world are you doing? Because most people have 9 months to prepare for a baby.
Right.
We had 3 weeks and we had never had kids before. And so it was a whole whirlwind. My husband worked nights at the time. So it was just very much like, Lord, what are you doing?
Mhm.
I mean, we're here and all of our families in Kansas and Oklahoma. And so even that was like, Lord, what are you doing? This is not
Mhm.
how I expected this to look. Um, but we did have a really great village that surrounded us and helped when I was like, I can't do this right now. Like, I need help. I'm like, I've never been a mom before. What do I do? So
Oh yeah.
um, there
That,
was those.
we have such a blessing with the village we do have at the Oaks.
Yeah.
When you walk into adopting, fostering, whatever it is, it's such a great program that they have there to walk with you. So I'm so excited about that. What are your challenges? Do you have any major challenges you feel like you and your husband David when it comes to this walk in this journey the way God has laid it out differently? I know some people are saying, why are you asking her that?
Yeah.
And I really believe, Myranda, because there's somebody that's listening. You said you've already been a spiritual mama, but there's somebody that's listening. And I believe that they're going to be so blessed by and so encouraged by what you're sharing and your transparency. So I'm sorry if I'm asking hard questions,
No, it's
but
okay.
I think your transparency is really going to bless someone who is waiting, who, whatever they're waiting for, to know that God is not a God that fails. He never
Yeah.
fails. He never
Yeah.
fails. So, and then once you talk about some of your challenges or some of your aha moments in the midst of all this, then we can transition to the part about Brother David and what God has brought him through.
Yeah. Yeah. I think some of my challenges are, and have been, even currently with our foster, um, knowing what we desire and also just trusting the Lord for whatever the outcome is,
Hmm.
feels like waiting to be a parent all over again. Um,
Wow.
that situation just, it's like you have this hope and, but man, we're just in this waiting season. We're just in this like hold. And it just very much reminds me of the entire 9 years we waited. Now, I don't think it's going to be 9 years, but it's so similar to I have to trust the Lord in the same way in this season that I did in those seasons of waiting, because um, it's not up to me. And
Right.
ultimately, however it plays out, he's the one in control. And so learning again to like surrender my control of, well, it should just go dot dot dot, because that's how it happened the first time. And I'm like, that doesn't mean it's going to be that way this time. Um,
Hmm.
and it's not. It's very different situation, very different story that's playing out. And so um, that's probably my biggest challenge. It currently is like remembering that it's okay to be in a waiting season. Um, because those 9 years of waiting, while I would never, ever wish that on any person ever, because it was
Hmm.
horrible at times and it was heartbreaking and devastating. Um, but they were so worth it. And so reminding myself in this waiting season currently that it's okay. And whatever the outcome is, it's going to be worth it. Um,
Yes.
so, and I think some of like the challenge with um, our previous waiting season was just genuinely waiting, being okay with waiting and knowing that this is a promise from the Lord. It's not a hope for,
Yes.
it's not a we'd like this to happen. It is, this is what the Lord spoke to our hearts. And so it's going to come to pass somehow.
Yes. Yes. That's so
So,
sweet. That's so sweet. Uh, you know, when you just said that, I thought about sometimes we want something so bad, but it's not from us. It's of
right,
us. It's of our own
right.
making. And
Yeah,
so then we have to struggle and worry about whether it will come to pass. But when you know it's a promise of God, and his word says his promises in him are yea and amen. So sorry, I'm going to block my dogs. Um, but when we know the promises are from God, then we don't have to stress and don't have to be so overwhelmed and so worried about the outcome,
yeah,
because he's not going to lie. He doesn't fall back on what he has said and what he has
right.
promised. I often tell people, when you're baking a cake, when you put your own stuff in there, sometimes you can mess it up. But if you follow the instructions, that's when it comes out okay.
Yeah,
So because the promises of God, it's okay.
yeah,
It's
yep,
just sometimes we want, okay, God, why is it taking so long?
yeah,
I've had issues. I've had things in my life that I've been praying for. I still have situations like with my son, sometimes with my children, even in my marriage or my work situation, different things. And I'm like, okay, Lord. And he'll just give me a glimpse of hope. And you know what I've done sometimes, Miranda? I'll say, Lord, if this promise is of you, just give me a glimpse
yeah,
that you're still in the midst of this.
yep,
And something will happen to pick
yeah,
up my spirits and show me it is of me. And daughter, you just have to wait.
yeah.
I know the waiting's
That's
not
good.
easy, but I like the way you said it's well worth it.
Yeah, yeah. That's hard to remember in it, but it is.
The enemy would tempt us to believe it's not. The enemy
Yeah.
would tempt us. Is there anything that really stands out as like a, other than just it's worth it, but like something that's happened with you, David, the boys, and something that was just such a great moment you would love to share?
Um, I mean, honestly, I think so you mentioned my husband had cancer, and I know that we'll talk about that a little bit more. Um, so one of the day we found out that his scans were clear after treatment and all of that is the same day we got the call about, I'll call him baby brother because that's what we call him. Um, and so just watching the Lord align that, even of
Yes.
we're coming out of this season, we're stepping into like almost a jubilee season, even though it's hard, it's still like,
Mhm.
look at the Lord. It was, so that's probably been our most like wow day
Mhm.
recently, is just like we find out that his scans are clear, and an hour later we get a phone call about baby
Wow.
brother. And
That would have been a wow moment.
yes,
Yes.
and we didn't know anything about him previously, and so just even the excitement in our son and being able to say like, hey, you are going to be a big brother and we're going to go get baby brother, just even that was like,
How did he respond?
So we had been asking him, so we had planned to open our home again this spring. So like right now is when we had planned to be opening our home. So we had been talking to him about, do you want to be a big brother? Do you want a baby brother, baby sister? And he would say, no. And he just was very much like, no, I don't want to do that. But it was great. And so the day we told him, he was like ready. He was like, yes, like I'm so excited. And when he met him, he just immediately fell in love with him. And so we just knew that even that was the Lord, because this little 2-year-old had been like, nope, I do not want a sibling, up until the day we told him.
He didn't want to share mama with anybody.
No, he did not. And sometimes he still doesn't. But the day we told him, he just was like, yes, like he was so excited. I'm like, this is definitely the Lord, because there's no way that my 2-year-old, who I asked the same question to 3 days ago and told me no, he said, no, thank you. So, yeah, that's probably been like our biggest
sweet. How sweet
celebration.
So tell us a little bit about this journey you've walked through with David and the cancer. I mean, if you don't mind sharing a little bit, because man, to see that you were waiting on your fertility you had to walk through, but then you get this news also, and man, you had a lot on your plate.
Yeah.
You're a young woman and you've had a lot on your plate, darling.
Yes. So we adopted in 2022, and then my husband had been sick for a little while, and we couldn't really figure out what was going on with him. And so in January of 23, he went to the doctor to try and figure out what's happening, what's going on, and we learned that he had low iron, and like was severely anemic. So the doctor, they just ran different tests, and they were like tracking his blood work, and he saw a blood specialist, and he had an endoscopy. I don't know all the terminology.
Yes.
He had that in April of 23, and everything was coming back fine, other than he just had low iron. And then about September of 23, like we journeyed this whole trying to figure out what's happening. Until September of 23, and one of the doctors said that he needed to have a colonoscopy. And so that was scheduled for October 18th. And that day we went in. Actually, I'm going to back up just a minute, because I think this is an important piece. Probably a week before his colonoscopy, my husband said that in his prayer time, he heard the Holy Spirit tell him that it was cancer.
Wow.
And but it was going to be okay. And my husband tells me this the day before we go in for his colonoscopy. And I was like, no, sir, you heard wrong. You're just scared. Like, that's fear. We're not believing that. And so he went in for his colonoscopy on the 18th of October. And after he woke up and was in recovery, the doctor came in and told us that it was cancer. That they had found a golf ball sized tumor. And from the looks of it, it was probably pretty progressed. And my husband had complete peace. He sat in that bed and he just was like, okay, what's the steps? I was shocked. Yeah, when I tell you, I literally felt like something had just punched the breath out of me. Our boy was just about to turn 2, so he was still, he was a year old. He was about to turn 2, and we had only had him for a year. He had only been adopted for a year, and all I could think was, I'm gonna lose my husband after we just became parents. Um, so
Wow.
it was devastating to me, that news.
That's a hard statement to,
Yeah,
and some people will say, well, where's your faith? Well, that has nothing to do with our faith, but I can almost feel where you were at that moment, Myranda. Like,
yeah,
God has brought us to this promise finally, and now this happens.
yeah. And that was that. It felt like the Lord fulfilled this promise, and we were walking in this miracle for us. And now it just felt like complete devastation. And
Wow.
I had a really hard time
Mm.
grasping that and coming to terms with it's going to be okay, whatever the outcome. We're going to trust the Lord, even though I knew what trusting the Lord was like. It was still this was different. This is my
Yeah.
husband's life. It's
Yes.
totally a different situation, and I wanted to remember the promise and the journey for becoming parents, but at the same time all I could think was, this is cancer and it's different,
Mhm.
you know. So everything moved very quickly. He had a surgery on November 7th, so just a couple weeks. They did a biopsy when he had had the colonoscopy, and so on October 26th we had found out that it was stage 3 because it had spread to lymph nodes. And then
Wow.
after the surgery on November 7th, they had told me that it was considered stage 3C. Each stage has like an ABC grade. And so I was told that his life expectancy for 5 years was 50-50. There was a 50% chance he would go into remission and make it and be fine in 5 years, and there was a 50% chance that he would not make it 5 years. We were 33 and 34 at the time, and I
My Lord.
couldn't even wrap my mind around what the doctor was
No.
telling me.
Oh my gosh.
So, and I didn't tell my husband that for a while, because I wanted to make sure that he kept the same attitude of it's going to be okay. We're gonna do this, you know. Um, Now I probably should have told him sooner, um, but I just couldn't. I couldn't bring myself to let him hear that type of news until the doctor told him that type of news.
Hmm.
So we everything moved very quickly. He started chemo in December and of 23, and he had a pretty aggressive treatment plan. We did chemo every 2 weeks. He was there for an entire day, and then he would have a 48-hour pump that would give him chemo for the next 2 days. So for 3 days every 2 weeks, he would receive a chemo treatment for 6 months. One of the drugs caused severe cold sensitivity, and this is the middle of winter. So
Oh.
um, he struggled very much with the cold sensitivity. Fortunately for him, the drugs that he was on didn't cause him to lose hair. It caused like hair thinning, but he didn't lose his hair. But one of the drugs caused him to have neuropathy that he's still struggling with today. He has trouble with his hands and feet and just feeling and movement, and his hands will lock up at times and he'll drop things. So it was very hard on his body. I know that one of the things that we know is that it can be so much worse, but that doesn't take away from what he went through.
Hmm.
Um, we had to get to a place where we were like, okay, this is our journey. This is what the Lord's doing for us right now, and this is what we're walking through. And it's not going to look like someone else's. Um,
Mm-mm.
you can empathize to some degree, but it's not going to look exactly like any one other person's. And it's not as bad as some people are experiencing, and it's not as easy as some people are experiencing as far as our view of it, as far as like what we view as easy and hard, right? Everyone has their own level of hard. Um, so He finished treatment in May of 24. So we're quickly approaching his 1 year post treatment.
Yay.
Yes, very much so. Yay. Yeah. We, it was very hard to watch him be sick and continue to try to work. Um, it was very difficult to watch him try to stay engaged with our 2 year old
Mm-hmm.
and to continue trying to just be the best dad that he could when he felt horrible. There would be days that he just would be in so much pain. And I just remember thinking, like, I don't know how we're going to do this. I don't know how we can continue doing. I don't know how I can continue watching him hurt and
Mm-hmm.
work full time and take care of him, take care of our son. And I don't know how I can continue watching him try to work every week. He would work from home on the weeks that he had treatment. So the day we would be in clinic, he would sleep the whole day because they would give him Benadryl because he had an allergic reaction to one of the chemo drugs.
Oh.
So he would take Benadryl and he'd sleep that entire day. And then the next 3 days, he would work from home. And just knowing that I was at work and he was here working from home while he was receiving chemo was just, some days it was too much. The
Oh, I
reality
can
of
imagine.
this is our life was too much. But the fact that I was able to attend every treatment with him, I didn't miss a single treatment. The Lord just had me and had us in the right place, in the right positions, at the right time. I'm so grateful to the Oaks for allowing me, because I worked at the Oaks at the time, to allowing me to work from home when I needed to be with him. And, just wrapping around our family, that we had several people that really just wrapped around our family and also never made us feel like, never made us feel different.
Mm-hmm.
We didn't get a lot of, oh, you poor things, which was very important to my husband. He's like, I don't want people to treat me differently. I
Mm-hmm.
don't want to be, pitied or whatever. He's like, I want them to ask me how I'm doing and be okay with when I say I'm not doing great or I'm not,
Wow,
this is
that's good
awful.
to hear.
Or he's like, I want to be able to be honest and I don't want it to scare people. I'm like, well, sometimes it's going to scare people because they don't really know what to say. I'm like, sometimes if you joke about it, it scares people a little bit, so don't do that. um, but even his job, allowing him to work from home on the weeks that he had treatment, allowing him if he was sick to just come home. And I mean, they never pressured him. They never made him feel like he was letting them down or slacking or
Mm-hmm.
anything. They were very gracious, and that to us was just a huge testament of the Lord's hand in all of it, because
Yes.
we couldn't have done it financially if he wouldn't have been able to work, or if I wouldn't have been able to work, or there were just several other things that the Lord aligned, that even on the days that he couldn't work, we were taken care of. He provided and we were taken care of in ways that weren't conventional, but that was okay. Like, we just were like, it brought us to a place where we don't like to ask for help. But it brought us to a place where we learned that community is truly everything.
Mm-hmm.
And it's okay to ask for help. It's okay to depend on your tribe and to depend on your people to help carry the burden. And knowing that's biblical and walking that out biblically are two different things. Like, we
Yes.
know that we're called to help carry one another's burdens, but when it's your burdens you're asking someone to carry, it's like, no, it's okay, we'll figure it out. But that is probably one of the biggest things the Lord taught us, was it is okay to allow our brothers and sisters in Christ to come alongside and help us carry this, because
Yes.
it is too much.
Wow, you said so much.
I know, I'm
I know we're
sorry.
going to keep going. No, no, no. This is so good, because when I'm listening to what you're saying in the journey, first of all, wow. That's all I'm going to say. It's, I saw you working and doing things around the church I would have never known until I saw the posting that you put up, you know, just the, my heart, you were speaking and my heart was just feeling when you said it was painful to watch him trying to be the best dad he could in the pain and still trying to care for a 2-year-old and in that activity. And some people don't know when people see us and they see us pressing through and doing what we have to do, they really don't understand sometimes our journey. I love
Yeah.
Myranda when you just said you guys had to get to the point that your journey may look different from everyone else's around you.
Yeah.
That in a way, that's what helped you to walk through this is that, okay, you couldn't say, well, so-and-so had this going on and this is what God did, or so-and-so had this is what God did. But you learned how to put yourself in the midst of what God, this is our journey.
Yeah.
And we know you have us through this, difficult as it may be, impossible some days.
Yeah.
And then he showed you how to come through those impossible days and those impossible moments. And look where you are now. And, he's gone through his treatment a year later, about to celebrate a year and still, well, and we're believing God that it will not be back. No
Yeah.
remission,
Yep.
he'll stay in remission. No comeback, nothing. That we're just going to believe God that it's gone forever, that he is totally healed forever. Um,
Yeah.
but just to hear how God really, and then you said another very important thing, knowing that it's biblical to walk alongside each other, but sometimes we don't want to. And I know I will give someone the shirt off my back. I will give someone my coat, my clothes, anything I have.
Yeah.
But if I need something, I'm too have difficulty saying I'm in need of this.
Yep.
For example, I've been struggling with a pinched nerve that has literally had me in the bed most days. So I'm here twitching even while I'm doing this. I've been struggling for a couple of weeks. I think one day I said to my daughter, I may need you. I went to the store to get groceries. I said, I may need you just to even come get the groceries out the car because my husband wasn't home.
Yeah.
And then I said, oh, never mind. I don't want you to take the time to drive. We do that, right?
Yeah.
Instead of knowing that just lifting things is going to agitate and aggravate, but we don't want to inconvenience others. But
Yeah.
I love the way you said to know that sometimes we need to realize this is biblical. We
Yeah.
need to count on the community. So you said so many powerful things because there might be somebody listening that's struggling through whatever. It may not be cancer, but it may be some other situation. And to know it's okay to have
Yeah.
a trusted tribe
Yep.
that you can depend on and to reach out.
Yes.
And to reach out.
Yes.
Sometimes people are waiting and they want to help.
Yes.
They want to be a blessing.
Yes.
Did you find that to be true?
Yes. There were times that I would just be like, I would call our friends or text our friends, and I would just be like, listen, we need help. I need someone to pick up Davy from daycare because we're still at the treatment center, or I need help with literally just like, can someone give David a ride because I have to be at work and he needs to get to this appointment. And every time we would ask our friends or our people to do something, it was almost like they were just waiting for us to ask for help, which was so encouraging because it's like, okay, it's not the burden I think it is.
Mm-hmm.
I'm thinking, man, I have to ask like Gabe and Morgan or Nadine and Danny to help us with this again or this situation. And every time we would ask someone something, it was like, yes, like, please let us help you. Like, we want to help you. People don't know how to help you unless you ask them. They don't
Yes.
have any idea how to step into a situation unless they've been through the situation or unless you ask them. And
Yes.
so it was like we were blessing them by allowing them to bless us, which was so weird for my brain to comprehend. It's like, no, that's not how this works. But I know even from personal experience, like what a blessing I feel when people allow me to help them. So why wouldn't it work both ways? You know?
And I don't know why we get stuck there, but we
I
do.
know.
And I'm so glad that we're sharing that part because some of us need to get over that, get over ourselves, move out the way. I've had people. When I've spoken and I've been someplace and someone wants to give me a love offering, I said, "Oh no, no, no," And then I finally learned that you're hindering someone wants to bless you.
Yes.
Don't
Yep.
hinder that blessing,
Yeah, you're
because they're
robbing
like,
them of
no,
their
you're
blessing.
blocking my blessing. I want to
Yeah.
be a blessing. I want to do. And so just by speaking up, and another key point you just said, some, and let, because you said it earlier, that people can empathize, they can, or they can try, they can't even empathize if they've
Yeah.
not walked with what you've been through. They could just imagine
Yeah.
what you've gone through. Like me, I can just imagine. My father passed away from cancer years ago, but I wasn't there with him, only to at the end, because I didn't grow up with him. But I can only imagine what you went through. It. I mean, my heart. I mean, I could feel it, but I wasn't there. I don't know. And unless we actually have suffered through that, we don't know. We don't know the pain. We don't know the struggle. We don't know that. But we also don't know how to help. And
Yeah.
our best intentions can be sometimes our worst. You know, like your husband said, I don't want people trying to make me feel pitied. I want to
Yeah.
be normal. I am struggling through something, but I want to be normal. And just those little things that we need to know, and that people need to be able to say, like for some people who's grieving, sometimes people don't want you to try to do anything. They just want to know you're available.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
And so, yeah,
That was a big thing for us.
listening to your story, Myranda, is so um, important. And now that you're where you are, what do you think? What do you think was the biggest thing, other than God showing you how to, reach out to other people, learning about your community? Were there any big things you feel like through both of these processes, these walks, that really matured you or helped you to see God in a different way?
Yeah, I think for me, it was a deeper level of trusting the Lord. Like I've trusted the Lord and I, have a relationship with him. But even like the infertility, that required a deeper level. But then when you have this picture in your head of how your life is going to look and you
Mm-hmm.
think, man, I'm going to grow old with this person for the rest of my life. Um, and then you learn that may not happen. that may not happen. Um, Now, I firmly believe it's going to happen, but I'm just saying when you're faced with something that
Mm-hmm.
is that could derail how you think your life is going, um, it required so much more trust and faith,
Mm-hmm.
and it required me to also get to a place where, like, if I was angry with the Lord, it was okay, and He already knew that, and so I needed
Mm,
to be honest with the Lord and with myself. Um,
that's good.
because yeah, like you said, some people wouldn't have known what was even going on if they saw me at church or saw me at work if you didn't know the situation. Um, and that honestly is a testament to what the Lord was doing, because there's no way I could have had real joy. And I had joy because joy is not an emotion.
Right.
Um, there's no way I could have had real joy without learning to let the Lord do the deeper heart work that
Mm-hmm.
had to be done in that season of trusting him, being honest with him. I mean, we know this. We know that the Lord already knows what we're thinking and feeling and all those things. But as of the person I am, I tend to be the one that's like, oh, but it's okay. Like it's going to be fine. Like it's okay.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And like I trust you, Lord. But that being shallow sometimes. And so really getting to a place where it's like, no, this is terrible and I hate this. And I'm a little mad we're walking through this, but I still do trust you because
That's real
I've
good.
seen what you've done. I know what you can do. And I even had to get to the place where it was like, if this doesn't go how I want it to go, and for whatever reason, I do lose my husband, I still have to trust you. And that was probably the hardest place for me to get, was I still have to trust you no matter what the outcome of this is.
Mm.
Um, because I don't want to be a widow in my early 30s.
Right.
That was not on my bucket list. And praise God, I'm not. But even faced with that could be a possibility, I had
Mm-hmm.
to say, okay, whatever the outcome is, I trust that you're in control of this.
Wow.
And so,
And I just see you walk around, you're always smiling, you have joy, you're so pleasant all the time. I
thank
don't know how
you.
you taking care of those two little ones because they can be a handful. Bless
Yes.
you. I remember those
Thank
days
you.
when mine were little. They weren't that close together. They were 4 years apart, but man, little ones close together are a handful. But I know you're enjoying it being mama and loving it.
Yes.
And I just thank God for what He's doing for you, for your husband, for your family, and everything around you. How He still uses you to be a blessing to the kingdom in the midst of all of this. In the midst
Yeah.
of all this, you are a true blessing to the kingdom. Man,
Thank
you're
you.
talented, you're gifted, and to be able to use those gifts to walk through what you walk through and then still say, God, but I'm here, I'm available, and use me,
Yeah.
even at the same time, is again a testament to your trust, your faith, and your walk with God. And it shows that you can't just say it, but you have to have that intimate relationship. So I believe that you, young lady, is an example to other young women that if you really walk close with God, He will move. If you have a personal, as you say, get that deeper level and that deeper trust and relationship with Him, what God won't do for those who love Him,
Yeah.
right? Those who are called according to His purpose.
Yeah.
Myranda, as we're wrapping up this session, if you had to leave words of advice to anyone listening, male, female, young, old, what would be your words of advice to our listeners who are watching this segment? And again, I thank you so much for taking out your time. And I thank you for being transparent and sharing your story because it can't be easy telling all this, but or
Yeah.
reliving it or reliving it.
Yeah.
But
Yeah. I mean, it's not easy to talk about always, but we kind of just decided a long time ago, when we were in the middle of our infertility journey, that the Lord is walking us through things for a reason. And so if we can be an encouragement, whatever door He opens to be able to do that, we're going to do that. I think like the thing that I would leave is I take a long time to get to that place of surrender. I will fight the Lord for a long time before I allow myself to get to that place of surrender. And you just don't have to. You don't have to wait so long to surrender, to trust, to allow Him to just take control. Um, I want control. I want to be controlling what is
yeah,
happening. And so, and I think a lot of us do. We don't like to be
yeah,
out of
we do.
control. And so, but I'm learning that I don't have to take that long, right? I don't have to fight that fight as long as I have been. That um, when it comes down to it, I'm not in control anyway. Because if I
Right,
were in control, I would have what I said to David about no, you don't have cancer. That's crazy. That would have been true if I were in
right,
control.
right, right.
But he heard from the Holy Spirit and knew this is what's coming and this is what we're gonna do. Um, and so just coming to a place where you can say, I don't have to be in control, and I trust that you are in control
Yes.
sooner than fighting through it. And sometimes I feel like your faith is built in that fight, but also sometimes we just fight because of our flesh. And so,
Yes. Yes.
yeah,
That's
just get
so
it.
good. Woo, sometimes letting go is not easy. And
Yes,
so
yeah.
I've been told that I'm a person that likes to control things too. So you're right. You're not by yourself. We like to see and see. I'm a person of order. So I
Yes,
like things like I like to see what's next. I like to be prepared. I like to know what's happening. And sometimes walking with the Lord, you don't know what's going to happen
you
next. You
don't
just have
know.
to say, "Okay, Lord." And so yeah, sometimes that surrender. It's taken me a long time to quickly. I will agree with you. But I'm learning now in my more mature years, I have just come to the point where I say, God, whatever you say.
Yeah,
And I don't know if, like for you, for me, it is when I say it, I have to put every part of my mental, physical and emotional and spiritual person behind that.
Yeah.
God, whatever you say.
Yeah.
I have to purposely, I can't just say it. I have to be intentional
Yeah.
about, I say that and I'm going to mean it and I'm going to practice it. I'm going to walk it out, because we can say it. A lot of people say that, but
Yeah.
I have to be real intentional about, I've said it, and Lord, so when things arise, nope, I've already given that over. I'm trusting.
Yeah.
And so,
It's not like I said it and then, oh, it was all better. No, I had to say it 100 times and I had to write it down. I'm like,
mhm,
no, I have to get this out. I have to make this a statement that every day, sometimes there were times where it was like every day I have to be like, okay, I'm not in control. Even though I want to be, I'm not, and you are, and I'm
mhm.
trusting that. And so,
Yes. Yeah. Well, guys, tonight I've been here with Myranda Reeves, and she's been telling us her walk, her journey, powerful testimony about how God has walked them through infertility, through her cancer treatments, and how God has just been answering prayer, and some of the keys to just walking through with him and walking through the journeys that God has for each one of us. And again, I love the way you said that, Myranda, to see our journey as ours and not try to walk on someone else's journey. Guys, I pray, well, I won't even pray. I know that her testimony has been an encouragement to you. Myranda, I thank you for coming on tonight and sharing your life with people all over the world, because someone needed to hear that. Someone needed to know that God was still answering, God is still moving, but
mhm,
also to hear that part you just said. I had to surrender and say, whatever, God,
yeah,
whatever you allow, God, that, because that's the key part that we don't want to. We just want to hold tight. And so again, thank you for coming on Tuesday Talk Live and sharing your testimony with us. And then, guys, until we catch up again next week on Tuesday Talk Live, have a blessed night.